Okay, let's give this thing a shot. This is Biology 2401 ASAP, as simple as possible, as soon as possible, anatomy and physiology. This is just a brief review of the organization of the nervous system. This information is found in the general practice questions, the power quizzes, the guided reading, the textbook, the PowerPoints provided by the textbook. You got a lot of sources of information. But this is just another way, a quick review with a voice, trying to help you see the organization. So here we go. First off, when it comes to organization of the nervous system, it's up to us to decide how we're going to organize it. There's a whole bunch of information, and we're going to try to find some kind of way to make it sort of fit together so it's easier to work with. With that in mind, let's just go ahead and say that the nervous system is divided into two general sections here: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now, the central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord, and that's it. Things attached to the brain, attached to the spinal cord, are not part of the central nervous system. Therefore, very important. Remember, the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves are not part of the central nervous system. They are part of the peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system includes the receptors, the nerves, the ganglia, all the things of the nervous system outside of the spinal cord and the brain. Now, in a strange little way, the peripheral nervous system sort of acts like a prison for the central nervous system, because the central nervous system is isolated inside the functions of the peripheral nervous system. The information that gets to your brain and spinal cord comes through the peripheral nervous system. And the information that leaves the central nervous system to go out to the body has to go through the peripheral nervous system. So again, your central nervous system is like an island inside the nervous system. It's surrounded by the peripheral nervous system. If anything goes wrong with the input, the brain and spinal cord don't get that information. If anything goes wrong with the output right here, the brain and spinal cord cannot control the body. Another way to look at it right here, in a big broad kind of way, is to say, okay, here is the nervous system. And the nervous system is divided into the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. The central nervous system is then subdivided into the brain and the spinal cord. And again, we've already mentioned, again, the only two organs inside the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system, again, includes ganglia, receptors, nerves, everything outside of the brain and the spinal cord. And it can be subdivided into the afferent and the efferent nervous systems. Now, afferent refers to input or sensory, and efferent refers to output or motor. So, this is information coming into the central nervous system, and this is information going out to the body from the central nervous system. The afferent nervous system, subdivision of the peripheral nervous system, can be further divided into the somatic and the visceral. So we can talk about the somatic sensory or somatic afferent, or in the visceral sensory or the visceral afferent. Now, somatic here is referring to things associated with motion, such as tendons and ligaments between bones and muscles, particularly skeletal muscles. And so from the somatic sensory part of the afferent nervous system, you have information coming in about the amount of stretch, compression, displacement of tendons, ligaments, the position of bones, and such. This information comes up and through to the central nervous system, spinal cord, and brain, and it helps your body create an image of where your body parts are, so that you know what position your hand is in, even though you're not looking at it. So you know your body image from this information coming up from tendons, ligaments, inside skeletal muscles too. This part right here is called the visceral division of the afferent nervous system, and sometimes it's called visceral sensory, sometimes visceral afferent. These are signals that are coming in from, say, your receptors in your stomach and your large intestine, small intestine. They're coming from blood vessels. They're coming from sections of your heart. These are trying to tell your central nervous system what's going on inside the body. So here you would have receptors recognizing the amount of pressure inside your stomach, so you know if you're full or not. The amount of pressure inside the the rectum to know if you need to have a bowel movement or not. The amount of pressure inside your urinary bladder, so you know if you need to go to the bathroom or not. These also would be measuring the amount of, sodium and potassium found inside your blood, and we're reporting that to your brain. It would be measuring the pressure inside your blood vessels. Again, reporting that to your brain, spinal cord also. So these are all those unconscious signals that are heading towards your brain. These are a little bit more conscious right here, but that's not a big deal. Next thing right here, if we talk about the peripheral nervous system, it can be divided into the afferent and the efferent. The efferent refers to signals that are leaving the brain, the spinal cord, and going out to the body. The efferent nervous system, again, can be called the motor or the output. Now, it's divided into the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. You notice the similarity right here. Somatic, of course, is referring to signals going out to skeletal muscles. So it is your control over your skeletal muscles, and you do have direct conscious control over your skeletal muscles if you're thinking about it. There's more to be said about that later on. And it's voluntary control if you are thinking about it and if you are conscious. More about that later on. The autonomic nervous system is the equivalent of saying a visceral system, but they use the term autonomic. Now, it's not automatic, but it's similar in its meaning. Autonomic means a self-control. So this is unconscious control of structures inside your body. So you have some direct conscious control over here, possible, but not over here. You can influence things through the autonomic nervous system consciously, but you can't control them. So therefore, the autonomic nervous system is heading out to things such as smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, endocrine glands, and exocrine glands. Remember, the somatic division right here is heading towards skeletal muscle. So possible, direct conscious control, not possible. No direct conscious control, but indirect influence is possible. So over here, you can tell some skeletal muscles to contract or relax and change the position of your body, move or not. Over here, you can't directly, consciously tell your heart to speed up or slow down, or tell your stomach to move the food or not, or to tell your stomach to release gastric juices or not. This is an autopilot over here. Now, the autonomic nervous system can be further subdivided into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. So again, these are beyond your direct conscious control, and these two things right here are associated with behaviors of organs inside your body that you're not controlling directly. The sympathetic nervous system is commonly known as the fight or flight system. It tends to use a lot of energy. It tends to get you ready for defense. It's associated with emotions such as happiness and anger. The parasympathetic nervous system is called the rest or digest, or rest and repose system. It tends to conserve or gather energy. It tends to relax you. It gets you to not get too wound up about things. And it's commonly associated with emotions such as apathy and depression. Now, this is one way in which you can think about the organization of the nervous system. This, of course, is another way, and you can expand on it by adding things. Here is yet another way that you might think about it. This is something that I put together, and I will, in the next little blurb right here, talk about how we can look at the peripheral nervous system, input and output, the central nervous system, and look at the divisions within each one of these things. So we'll do that on the next little video.